Hold up. Wait a minute. I wish you love, peace, and hair grease.
Love, peace, and hair grease, y'all.
Yeah, you know I'm shooting straight from the hip.
This is Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Critic, and I shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah, you know I'm shooting straight from the hip. Love, peace, and hair grease. Yeah, you know I'm shooting straight from the hip.
Let's take a trip around the curve.
Hampton, but we the real HU, girl. Hi, everybody. It's your girl, Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Film Critic. What's up, fam? I know I'm like a day late and $1 short, but I'm here. So I got lots of stuff to talk about, and I will not waste another second. But if this is your first time joining me, I'm Carla Renata, your host, and you have tuned into the Curvy Critic with who? Carla Renata. What? And what I do here is I talk about and review films, and every once in a while, we'll do interviews with people above and below the line in the film industry. I usually get the show started talking about what I did the week before. Didn't do a whole lot the week before, and I'm really actually kind of broke down, but I did do something really fantabulous yesterday. I got to see a preview of the trailer for Avatar 2. I got to see the trailer for Avatar 2. It is gorgeous and really blue, as you can imagine. And then I also had an opportunity to screen, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I got to see that too. And let me tell you something, Elizabeth Olsen is doing her thing, but I'm not going to talk about that this week because it's still under embargo. I will talk about it next week. Okay. So having said that, let me go on and tell you what we have in store for today. So A League of Their Own, I'm going to talk about as part of my Curvy Classic. You know, I like to do a little throwback every once in a while. But A League of Their Own is celebrating, I believe, 30 years this year. And it is one of my favorite movies. It starred Madonna. It starred Rosie O'Donnell. The girl that played Betty Spaghetti was actually Penny Marshall's daughter. Um, who else was in it? Gina Davis was in it. Tom Hanks was in it. It was a really great film. And I love this scene right here with Gina Davis and Tom Hanks where they're fighting over who's going to give signals for the game. And of course, you know, there is Madonna and Rosie. So let me tell you something about this film. A League of Their Own is a 1992 film that tells the fictionalized account of the real life All Americans Girls Professional Baseball League. It was directed by Penny Marshall. It also starred Lori Petty, Lovitz, David Strahan, Gary Marshall, and Bill Pullman, in addition to the stars I've already mentioned. Brooke Shields was offered the lead female role, the part of Dottie, but after the writer's strike in 1988, Brooke Shields was written out, replaced by Deborah Winger, and then Deborah Winger backed out, and the part eventually went to Gina Davis, which, you know, it is what it is. And Deborah Winger, so when Winger got pulled out, Lori Petty was cast because of her resemblance to Deborah Winger. But when Gina Davis took over the role of Dottie, they dyed Petty's hair red to make them look like sisters. That I didn't know. I also found out that there have been 2 attempts to adapt this movie into a TV series. The first time was in 1993 when CBS did a sitcom featuring Megan Kavanaugh, the girl who played Marla Hooch in the movie, and Tracy Reiner, who is Penny's daughter, who played Betty Spaghetti, to reprise their roles in the movie. Several of the behind-scenes personnel were the same, but it didn't quite take off. The second TV adaptation was announced in 2018, but because of COVID, has been delayed, and it wasn't set to premiere, and it's now set to premiere later on this year. It was created for Amazon by Will Graham and Abby Jacobson, who also stars in it, and the characters also include the characters. The other people that are starring in this adaptation are Shantae Adams, Darcy Corden, Roberta Colendres, Gimisola Ikamulo, Kelly McCormick, Priscilla Delgado, and Nick Offerman. Now, this is something that I want to talk about that uh, really breaks my heart. Naomi Judd, who is one half of the Judds, lost her life over this weekend. There's a lot of mystery shrouded in how she passed away, but the family says that she was suffering from mental illness. And as we know, mental illness can encompass a multitude of things. So I'm heartbroken because I remember when I first met her. And oh, let me just say, hey, morning. Oh, let me come off the camp. Let me hop back on camera real quick so I can say hi to my boo before I finish talking about the Judds. Brandon, boy, you better stop. Thank you. I know it's early, but I thank you for being here. All right, I'm gonna finish talking about the Judds. So the very first time I saw Winona and Naomi Judd, I was out in I was still living on the East Coast, and I had moved to the West, not moved to the West Coast. I had come to the West Coast to attend a award show, and I was in a little shop on Melrose, and they were both in there. They were both wearing white. They both had on cowboy hats. They were so gorgeous. They looked like real life dolls. I was like, I love your music. They were like, thank you. And then I literally, y'all, literally drove all the way to San Diego to a place called Humphreys by the Bay to go see Winona Judd because I am the last of the country fans. I really, really am. They did a movie that was based on their life called Love Can Build a Bridge in 1995. And it was based on the song and a book that was Naomi's autobiography, so to speak. But if you don't know who the Judds are, let me enlighten you. The Judds were or are an American music duo comprised of Winona Judd and her mother, Naomi Judd. They were signed to RCA Nashville in 1983, and they released 6 studio albums between then, becoming one of the most successful country duos in country music history. They have 5 Grammy Awards for Best Country Performance by a Duo or Group with a Vocal, and they also have 9 Country Music Association awards. They charted more than 20 singles on Billboard's Hot Country Song charts, including 14 that went to #1. And in 1991, after Naomi was diagnosed with hepatitis C, Winona began a solo career, thus me driving to Humphreys by the Bay in San Diego to go see her. And she did really great. But we did lose Naomi Judd over the weekend on April 30th, 19 days after her final performance, which is where this picture is from, of the Judds at the Country Music Awards on CBS, and a day before her induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame. And they were also scheduled to do a tour this fall. So I'm sending out condolences and love and light and prayers to the Judd family, including Ashley Judd and Naomi's husband, Larry Strickland. I'm sure they are absolutely devastated, as are people like me who are fans of the family. So now let me talk a little bit about this TV movie adaptation of a musical that's coming on called Spring Awakening. Spring Awakening is going to be on HBO today, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. No, 9 p.m. Pacific. So you're like, what is Spring Awakening about? And why is she talking about Spring Awakening? Well, let me tell you why I'm talking about Spring Awakening. When I had a lot of money, I used to go to New York once a year, usually a couple of months before the Tonys, and I would pick 2, maybe 3 shows to see. This particular year, I went to see Spring Awakening and a couple of other shows. I went to see Spring Awakening because the daughter of one of my castmates from the life, Chuck Cooper, his daughter Lily Cooper was in it. And I remember her being a little girl with these big, long, thick pigtails that was very, very shy. And then I went to see her in this musical, and I was like, oh, okay. She's not shy anymore. But anyway, I digress. What is Spring Awakening about? Let me tell you what Spring Awakening about. Spring Awakening is based on a 1891 spring play that was written by Frank Wedekind. And the y'all are like, what is she talking about? It was produced, so yeah, it was set in the late 19th century Germany. And it's a musical that tells the tale of these teenagers discovering an inner and outer um, message about adolescent sexuality. In the musical, the music is set to an alternative rock folk infused score. It was conceived by Duncan Sheik and Stephen Satter, and it had a number of workshops, concerts, rewrites, as all musical do in the beginning. And the last song that was to be rewritten was replaced with a song called "The Guilty Ones." John Gallagher Jr., who originated and won a Tony Award for his role of Moritz, walked out of his callback because he was intimidated and felt like he didn't have a chance, and his agent convinced him to go in. I guess that was a good thing because Homeboy ended up winning the Tony for it. John Gallagher is the one in this picture. He's number 5 that you see up there with the crazy, crazy hair. And Lily Cooper is the young lady over to the right of your screen with the big curly afro. That is Chuck Cooper's daughter. And then, of course, over on the far left is Leah Michelle, who we all know now. And yeah, so a lot of these kids in this show became huge, 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 huge stars in their own right. And I just love the fact that Duncan Sheik and Stephen met through a Buddhist group. I'm Buddhist, and I love that they were able to create some really thought-provoking musical theater out of their Buddhist ministry. The musical also won the 2008 Grammy Award for Best Musical Show Album, and it won 8 Tony Awards, including Best Musical, Best Score, Best Book, and I told you that John Gallagher won the Tony for Best Actor in a Musical. So I just wanted to make sure that, I talked a little bit about that so that y'all knew what was going on in the big scheme of things. And it is on HBO tonight. So if you are a fan of musical theater, especially now that they have been really good about taking really thought-provoking musical theater and bringing it to television. Like we've seen Hamilton that way. We've seen a couple of other ones that come away the musical. They're starting to bring musicals to television, particularly HBO and Disney Plus, so that people that can't travel to New York, especially because of the pandemic or for other reasons, have an opportunity to have that Broadway experience. But let me just say, nothing, nothing, nothing can replace live theater. There's nothing like sitting in a theater and watching that entr'acte start to play and that curtain go up and that opening number start. It just boils your adrenaline up to a fevered pitch. There's nothing quite like it. You got to check it out. So, Spring Awakening tonight, y'all. Now, I want to talk about this film that I saw called A Taste of Hunger. Ooh, baby. This one is a trippy trip. It is by Magnolia Pictures. It's directed and written by Christopher Bowe. It stars Nicolaj Coster-Waldau as Karsten, and you remember him from Game of Thrones, and Katrine Rosenthal as Maggie, and Charlie Gustafson as Frederick. Now, this couple is a couple that is sacrificing everything to achieve the highest possible accolade in the culinary world, a Michelin star. The ending of this film is unbelievable. You do not see it coming, but the film in general is a little bit of a slow burn. But baby, if you are a foodie like me, you will get your entire life watching this film. It is a slow burn, and the second half of it is a little bit better. But when I tell you Miss Katrine and Mr. Nicholas are doing the daggone thing, they are doing it. Their acting in this is mwah. And the guy that plays Frederick, Charlie, he's great too. The performances in this film are really, really great. It's shot beautifully. It's shot a little bit in the dark because a lot of the stuff is happening at night. So it's shot in the dark, which I don't particularly love, but I do love the fact that they centered it around food and you get a little tiny glimpse into how these restaurants get these stars and what people go through to get them. So it's called A Taste of Hunger and it's produced by Magnolia Pictures. Another film that I saw is a film called Black Box. It's a French film, and it's directed and written by Jan Gotland, and it's starring Pierre Niney as Matthew and Lou Delan as Naomi. This film was crazy, mostly because it's dealing with a young and talented analyst played by Pierre who works for one of these companies that analyzes the black box. And he ends up finding out some things. Well, what happens is there's a deadly crash where 300 people die on this brand new aircraft. And the case is closed by authorities. But Matthew can't help but sense that there's something wrong with this evidence. He just can't let it go. This is what I tell you is fascinating about this particular movie. This movie gives you a huge insight into, because I always wondered when they talk about the black box, like what is the black box? What does that entail? What does that encompass? And how important is it to finding out how a plane crashes? Turns out it's detrimental because the black box contains every audio sound that happens from the time that flight starts to the time it ends. So you hear, so what Matthew does is he sits and people like Matthew that work for these companies, they sit for hours on end listening to the sounds of these black boxes to see if they hear anything unusual that could have possibly contributed to the crash, right? That actually was fascinating to me. And the way that Jan went about bringing these sounds into the forefront of the film, because most of the film is sound. And so it gives you a really great understanding of how intricate yet important one teeny tiny little sound can be in a situation like that. It also lets you know how crazy airlines can be when it comes to when these planes crash, and it's particularly a plane crash that they know is at the fault of the aircraft or the manufacturer of the aircraft, how it lets you know the painstaking process that they will go through to hide the truth from the people. It's not fair to the people that have died. It's not fair to the people whose loved ones are still here looking for answers. And it lets you know that sometimes in corporate America, a lot of the time really, that greed and money play a huge part in their conscience. Like it's almost like they have no conscience. That was really fascinating. This too was a little bit of a slow burn, but but it had like that thriller aspect to it. And so there were moments in the film where I literally had like a knot in my stomach. And even though it's a slow burn, the payoff is major. It highlights, like I said, the politics, the pilots, the airlines, the corporate greed. And there is a very Hitchcocky sense to it, especially toward the end. There's this moment where the camera kind of spirals around Matthew as he's spiraling out of control. And and it also shows you the calm before the storm when the plane crashes. But it's an excellent, excellent film. I'm not quite sure where you can see this one yet, but when I find out, I will let you know. The next film I want to talk about is a film that's playing on HBO Films right now. It's called The Survivor. It is a Barry Levinson film, and it stars Ben Foster. And it stars Ben Foster as Harry Haft, Dar Azakovsky as Leah, Danny DeVito as Charlie Goldman, and Peter Sarsgaard as Emery Amerson. The Survivor is adapted from a book by Haft's son, Alan Scott Haft, and it proceeds to, through interlocked flashbacks of World War II, it lets you know what his life was like. So, what happens is Harry Haft ends up being a boxer who fought against the Jews, being a Jew himself, in concentration camps for the Nazis' entertainment. It shows how his haunted memories, that he's using to fight these legends as a way to find his true love. He unmercilessly uses all these fights to try to get the attention of his first love, who he had to leave when they got separated, when the Germans came and when the Germans came and put people in concentration camps. The Nazis put them in camps. This film was so good, and I really loved learning about Harry Haft, and I could kind of sort of relate. I remember seeing some films back in the day about slavery where they showed how the white plantation owners oftentimes would put up the black men in these boxing matches, or have them do rooster fights, or anything of that sort as entertainment. And so when I saw that, my brain immediately went back to that, realizing that in some instances, people don't see someone as different as a human being. They see them as, something that they can play and toy with. And this was a man who was doing what he had to do to survive in these camps, but using it as a way to find his true love. And when he finally did find her, I won't tell you what happens when he finally does find her, but Harry Haft goes on to have a very long life. He eventually does end up marrying someone else, but it was a really great film. I enjoyed it immensely. It is called The Survivor. It is produced by HBO Films, so you can stream it if you have an HBO Max subscription, and it is directed by Harry Levinson. Now, next week, I'm going to talk about Doctor Strange. I'll have the review up on my site. What's today? Today's the 3rd. So I'll have the review up on my site probably like Wednesday or Thursday-ish. And then we can talk about it when I come back on Monday, May 9th. I may pre-tape the show on Monday, May 9th, because I have some things that are going on that evening, and I may not be able to coordinate doing this live at that time. But at that time, I will have Doctor Strange for you. I have an interview with Keith Thomas, the director of Firestarter. I am doing a junket for Sneakerella, which is going to be on Disney Plus. And I also have the director of The Innocents, director Esco Voigt. And I'm going to talk about They Call Me Magic, the docu-series on HBO that centers around Magic Johnson. So I know I didn't have no interviews for y'all today, and I know I'm a day late and a dollar short, but I'm here, baby. I'm still here, as Celie says in The Color Purple. So if this is your first time joining me, give me a big old thumbs up to let me know that you were here. Click that bell for notifications if you are on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, boo. And wash your hands. Keep washing them hands, y'all. Even though everything looks like it's normal, we're still like in a little quasi pandemic situation going on. So, keep it real, keep it light, but stay safe. Make sure you get them booster shots. Make sure you get them pandemic shots. If you have not had them, it will save you. I promise. Been there, done that. So until the next time, I will see you. Deuces, love, peace, and hair grease. And I will see you on the flip side, baby. Bye.